Hi, everybody. Welcome to Psych 206. This is a course on the development of psychological thought. In this short video, I will try to give you an overview of our class, particularly focusing on two questions. What can you expect in Psych 206? And why are we even here? Why is it important to study history? I will not detail here what our course requirements and course outline are. Everything you need to know is available on our course site, so please visit the link that you see on your screen. While you're at it, please check out the Topic 1 study guide so you will know what to prepare for next week. And in case you haven't done so, please take the time to watch the brief conversation with Wade Pickren and Alexandra Rutherford to hear other voices on what you can expect in a history of modern psychology class. So let's begin. What can you expect in Psych 206? Before we talk about history, let's start with the present. Psychology today is defined as the scientific study of human experiences. But what counts as a human experience? What differentiates our field from other fields who are also interested in human experience? In psychology, we often study the following domains of the human experience. We have affect, behavior, cognition, desire, and environment. But has it always been this way? Psychology as we know it today has been incredibly specialized. But why was that the case? Why do we study what we study? What events and factors led to our current state? Every week, we will discover the following things that you see on your screen. One, big psychological ideas. Para itong introductory psychology class, your Psych 101, pero yung concepts contextualized in a particular period and place. For example, how did Wundt, the supposed founder of modern psychology, attempt to make sense of human experience, particularly how we process information from the environment and how we react to that information accordingly? So, prepare to learn lots and lots of concepts. Two, we'll also discover the cultural climate of a particular period. This is what historians refer to as the zeitgeist or the spirit of the times. For instance, how did World War II or the various movements in the 60s shape what ideas or research questions to pursue during that particular time periods? Three, we'll also uncover tensions in the field. Why are most founders of systems or schools of thought in psychology white men? What is the purpose of the rise of a particular system, for instance, behaviorism or cognitivism? Is this a reaction to prevailing ideas? And what is the purpose of psychology anyway? What is the point of studying an experience during a particular time? Fourth, finally, we'll piece together continuities and discontinuities. Are the prominent ideas in the early 1900s still relevant today? And what led to the rise and fall in prominence of certain ideas? Ang klase na to ay parang isang teleserye, K-drama, o limited series. May mga bida sa panahon na mababasa o makikilala natin. May conflict. Posibleng may resolution yung conflict, posibleng wala pa dahil nagpapatuloy pa rin hanggang sa ngayon. Your goal is to study all the things previously mentioned in that slide in order to understand how the present came to be. But just like any story, minsan may spoiler alert. And I'm sharing one with you now para matutukan nyo ito during the entire duration of our semester. Ang isang observation sa psychology, as we know it, ay masyadong mataas ang pagpapahalaga sa individuality. Person or individual nga raw ang primary unit of analysis. The field has a tendency to be reductionist, to favor experiments, to favor a specific view of science, to favor quantification, materialism, objectivity. And the goal of the field seems to be about obtaining homothetic laws. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like something a physicist or a chemist, a biologist would aspire to? When you read, try to discover why we value these things and why we conduct our science the way we do. And then think about, is this the kind of field that we want? Or is there a space for other values as we develop psychology in the next few years? Speaking of, who are we and what do we do as psychologists? So imagine yourself finishing your graduate training. So yan, natapos nyo na, defend nyo na iyong thesis, at nakuha nyo na inyong degree. How will you use that degree and all the knowledge that you accumulated in your academic training? Do you see yourself as a scientist, as a practitioner, an advocate? All three? Just one or two? Can you be an advocate but not a scientist? And to be a psychologist in the Philippines or in the global setting, do you need to be all three? So here's another thing you can expect, which can be a bit more personal. A study of history is a boundary setting exercise that allows a distinct identity to develop. Learning about the history can hopefully help you strengthen your identity as a psychologist to help inform how you can contribute to science, practice, and/or advocacy. So think about what you want to do as a psychologist. And is that aligned with the goals of our field? Last thing you can expect in terms of course coverage. Sabi ni Ebbinghaus, psychology has a long past but a short history. Because we cannot completely uncover the past. And perhaps tracing the past is impossible because where do you even begin? We have to start somewhere. What we will study during the semester is the history of modern psychology. You'll find out soon in the next few weeks when modern started. This has implications on our approach in the study of history. For one, we will be cross-sectional and chronological. Each week will be a selection of a period and time. We will then study the school or system of thought that was prominent during that time. Hopefully, what this will teach us is to avoid what historians call presentism. Presentism. Or using our current perspectives, using what we know now to evaluate past events. This class will be a serious attempt to understand how historical figures themselves understood the world. We will examine ideas in their context and assess them during the time when they gained prominence. Relatedly, we will also take on a contextualist approach. We will ask, what were the human concerns at a specific time? We will uncover the social-cultural, economic, and political factors that shape a society as a whole and individuals or groups. We will not necessarily focus on dates, names, and facts alone, but on concerns, contexts, and power dynamics in place at that time. In terms of power dynamics, we will ask, why were there shifts in perspectives and roles? We will also ask, who made the knowledge, for what purposes, and to what ends? Finally, we will attempt to be critical and inquire into why psychologists have done things in a certain way. And consequently, can things be done differently? If so, how? Think of it as if we are writing a literature review. I would imagine that you might have some experience on writing a literature review. So we will trace how the understanding of a phenomenon evolved. So we will ask, what were the dominant ideas, but also what were the competing ideas or perspectives, and then we integrate. Ultimately, to be critical is to also ask ourselves, what fundamental commitments or beliefs do we endorse? Do we want to do psychology the way behaviorists do it? Do we claim to be humanists or cognitivists? More importantly, why do we subscribe to these beliefs and how will this inform how we do our psychology? So that is our answer to the first question. What can you expect in this course? At this point, if you feel like taking a quick break, you may do so. Otherwise, you may proceed for the answer to question number 2. Why do we study history anyway? So here we go. The study of history. What binds psychologists? As previously mentioned, psychology today is extremely specialized. You're probably in different areas of specialization. So may clinical, may personality, may developmental, may industrial organizational, social psychology, psikologiyang Pilipino. And it's hard to neatly say what binds psychology and what binds psychologists as a group. We can look into what similar activities our psychologists engage in. We can also say that all psychologists are scientific and therefore embark on the scientific enterprise. But to answer a question why we study history, it hopefully helps us appreciate our origin stories. O diba? Para tayong mga superheroes. We may do things differently now, but what binds all of us is our common past that gave birth to a lot of our current ideas and methods. To further strengthen our identity as psychologists, as previously mentioned, and to help us chart our future, it might be good to understand who we were and why we focused on certain ideas. But also in your program of study in the department, Psych 206 is a core course that you take early on, usually during your first semester or your first year. 206 is considered an approach or perspective course, along with your other content and methods courses. But why take 206 this early? We believe in the department that developing a historical approach to psychology is an important skill that will be useful to you in your further academic and professional development. What you should develop this early is a perspective for studying how factors such as belief systems of psychologists, the context, like the time and place, and the personality of a founder influence and modify what is considered factual in psychology. So if you think about it, isa yan sa mga napakahalagang goals na ginagawa natin sa psychology. No? We take on this perspective when we try to understand a particular phenomenon. For instance, voting, or why we support particular candidates, or why we are attracted to particular people. So if you think about that, when we try to make sense of these human experiences, ganito naman yung approach na ginagawa natin, di ba? Ano yung impluwensya ng environment dun sa voting or dun sa falling in love? No? Ano yung impluwensya ng mga paniniwala mo as a person, no? And then consequently as a scientist, on how you are going to approach a particular research question, no? Or phenomenon of interest. We looked into various factors that come into play: personality, values, the developmental trajectory, relationships with parents, relationship with close others. So this perspective, I'd like to believe, develops critical thinking and provides early tools for you to know if something is psychological or not. If you write your thesis, the first thing to ask is, am I doing something that falls within the boundaries of psychology? Why do you say so? So I think of this course as a preparation for your thesis as well, because hopefully, sa ilang linggo pagsasamahan natin, makaklaro sa atin, ano ba yung boundaries ng field? Ano ba yung counted as psychological at hindi psychological? But aside from this course being required, should we even bother learning about psychology's history? What do you think? Is this important in the scheme of things? So si Thomas Kuhn, who wrote about scientific revolutions, has this to say. Sabi niya, accepted examples of actual scientific practice. For instance, examples which include law, theory, application, and instrumentation together provide models from which spring particular coherent traditions of scientific research. So this statement already gives us an idea of what we will learn each week. We will learn laws, we will learn theories, applications, and instrumentation from 1800s to the present. But why is this relevant for you? He goes on to say, the study of paradigms, which include learning all those laws, theories, applications, instrumentation, belief systems, is what mainly prepares the student for membership in the particular scientific community with which she will later practice. Subsequent practice will seldom evoke overt disagreement over fundamentals. Those whose research is based on shared paradigms are committed to the same rules and standards for scientific practice. Okay, so this is important. So the study of history is therefore a study of fundamentals of various traditions in psychology. As an entry point in the discipline, it is important for us to familiarize ourselves with the rules and standards of our discipline. So pag tinanong kayo, how do you do psychology? So we have to understand these fundamentals. We have to be on the same page about the rules and standards for scientific practice. And another spoiler alert, maraming mga standards. Kaya nga nakalagay, we study different scientific traditions. So this is important because learning the rules of the game allows us to navigate the field and potentially improve on it. So kilalanin muna natin bago natin siya i-deconstruct and eventually i-reconstruct. Learning the various paradigms help us decide what kind of psychology we want to do and what kind of psychologist we want to be. In sum, this course will provide you with broad conceptual frameworks that include statements about psychology's definition, its preferred methods, and its important concepts through time. We will trace how understanding and ways of knowing human experience have evolved. At the very least, you will be aware of ideas that have shaped the development of contemporary psychology. Once again, everybody, welcome to Psych 206. Despite our chronological structure, I want you to continually think about what a historical perspective informs us about such questions as, what is the relationship between humans and non-human animals? Meron nga ba? What is the relationship between the mind and the body? Where does human knowledge come from? What is the nature of mind? Is it conscious, unconscious? Is it best conceptualized as atomistic or holistic, static or dynamic? What is the relationship of psychology as a science, as an applied profession, and as an advocacy? Thanks for watching, everybody. See you all in class. Bye.